It's a Locked On crossover event with our friend Brice Paterik from Locked On Rangers. We're talking about the playoff-bound Rangers and the hopeless Halos. We're going to get into all of that on today's show. It's time to get locked on with Mike and Jon, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SiriusXM by searching Locked On Angels. The best way that you can help us out, honestly, is to like the video on YouTube and subscribe to the channel. If you're on the audio side, be sure you give us a rate and a review. We love 5 stars around here. After all, we are the Super Halo Brothers. And just want to let you know, today's show is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Thanks for being here, everybody. It's another edition of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. Normally, you have the Frisch brothers here, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is Jon Frisch, and of course, my brother Mike Frisch is usually here with me. But on today's special Locked On crossover event, we have Brice Paterik of Locked On Rangers. You know, it's our second season here at Locked On Angels, and as it's winding down, we're very happy that you're here with us every single Monday through Friday, where it's your team every single day. Tomorrow, everybody, I want to remind you that it is Fan Mail Friday, so get your questions in for the last Fan Mail Friday of the season. While the season's going, of course, we'll be taking your questions for Fan Mail Friday over the off season, but I'm sure you guys have a lot of comments, a lot of questions, and a lot of topics to get into. So we're really looking forward to that. Right now, I want to invite in my friend Brice from Locked On Rangers, who's gloating over a Rangers victory 5-0 last night against the Angels. So let's get Brice in here right now. Hey, it's a Locked On crossover event. I'm Jon Frisch from Locked On Angels, and there's Brice Paterik from Locked On Rangers. So if you're everydayer for Locked On Rangers, you know him well. And, if you're interested in checking out your AL West quote-unquote rival, then you can meet me and my brother Mike over at Locked On Angels. Brice, this is going to be a lot of fun, man.
Oh, going to be an absolute blast. And I'm glad the Rangers cooperated and actually won 2 out of 3 in this series, because it would have been a slightly different mood, a much worse mood if the Rangers did not take 2 out of 3. But hey, the Halos have a respectable team. And, I am sitting here. I'm obviously not as bummed as the way their season turned out, but I am still bummed because I remember in our AL West crossover early on in the season, I was one of the ones I was a believer in the Halos. I loved their offseason. I thought they made some smart moves. It was different from the way they had done things before. I'm like, this is going to work out. They've got a great pitching staff. They've got Shohei Ohtani. They've got Mike Trout. They've got Anthony Rendon. And not to mention all these, now they've got a bunch of frisky youngsters. I loved Logan O'Hoppe. Yeah. And it just, boy, it has not turned out the way I thought it was going to.
Didn't turn out as well as we thought. You heard my dog earlier. He's very upset about the season as well. Unfortunately, he stopped coming in our living room because I think something on the TV scared him, and so we're trying to get him used to that again. But I'm pretty sure he's just tired of watching the Angels with me. So I think that's what happened there. Last night, the Rangers shut out the Angels 5-0, and 2 of those runs, of course, at the beginning of the game came from Adolis Garcia, home run and the double. But at that point, once Griffin Canning left the game and the Angels followed up with Andrew Wantz and Ben Joyce, then they bring Carlos Estevez, not in a save situation. But Brice, I don't know if you know this, but since the beginning of August, our closer, Carlos Estevez, after being nails all season long, has an over 8 ERA since the beginning of August. And that, of course, is when the Angels went in at the trade deadline to get the pieces they needed to try and get a wild card spot. Unfortunately, Carlos has just not been successful since the beginning of August. Any thoughts when he came into the game? I know you guys were up 2-0, but were you aware of the struggles he's been having since then?
I was not, and a shaky bullpen. Man, I can't relate,
Right, right.
No, I can absolutely relate to a shaky bullpen. So many Rangers losses by a blown bullpen.
Man.
But the Rangers are figuring it out at the right time. The Rangers did finish off this shutout with a shutout inning from Aroldis Chapman and a shutout inning from Jose Leclerc, who seems to be, he started the year as a Rangers closer, and then he lost the job.
Yeah.
And now, at the time the Rangers need him most, he is back. But I did not know about Esteves' struggles, and I really thought he was going to come in and keep the Angels in this one, and it was going to be a nervous game. But it turned out to not be. The Rangers had a 5-0 lead whenever Jose Leclerc came in.
Yeah.
I didn't think there was any chance that Chapman was going to come in for second inning. He just has not done that really at all. He's done it once this year for the Rangers, and he was very good when he did it. I think that was this weekend against the Mariners, but it's the first time he had done that in like 6 years. It's been a long, long time. And even pitching him in back-to-back days is like, he's kind of old and fragile at this point.
It was a lot of fun to see Ben Joyce come in for the Angels and throw 102, and then Aroldis Chapman come in and throw 100 plus. Like, man, just talk about flamethrowers coming out of the bullpen, right?
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of games where Aroldis Chapman gets in there and he does not have the top pitch velocity of the night. That is belonged to Mr. Ben Joyce at 102.4.
Yeah.
Then Aroldis Chapman 102.2, and then the rest of them were all Ben Joyce 101, 101, 101. I was like, dang. And I knew who Ben Joyce was because every day for the last like week or so I've been, and for the rest of the season I've been like playing like the matchups on MLB The Show and just like, all right, simming like, all right, so the Rangers won while I played this, so therefore they're going to win this game in real life too. It hasn't always held true, but it's nice to have a little bit of hope.
There's something you told me before we got started that I think Locked On Everydayers from Locked On Angels would enjoy hearing about Reid Detmers. The Rangers don't celebrate Detmers Day in Texas. Why is that?
Dread it, run from it. It all arrives just the same because Reid Detmers, I don't know if Angels fans are aware of this. I mean, they might be generally aware that the Rangers kind of went in the tank in August after starting August on a 8-game winning streak. The Rangers also suffered an 8-game losing streak. And that losing streak started with that gem by Reid Detmers in Arlington.
Yeah.
And the Rangers followed that up by getting swept by the Brewers at home. First time they'd ever been swept at home this season. Then they got swept on the road against Arizona. And then they got swept by actually they won they lost 3 out of 4. Won the 1-1 game in Minnesota. But like it was just the curtains falling on this team. Everything went to crap after Reid Detmers lit them up. And part of me thought like, oh no, please don't let the curse of Reid Detmers strike again. This team go on another losing streak. We cannot afford it. Cannot afford it at all.
You avoided it last night, fortunately for you guys.
Very fortunate.
Detmers started this run of 7 games with like a 2.41 ERA. It started and ended with the Rangers. It's the game that you were talking about that set them on that losing streak, and then he ended his season 2 nights ago against the Rangers with the win. I like that guy, man. Mike has been a big fan of him since the beginning. I subscribed to Patrick Sandoval early on, and I think Mike got the better end of the 2 choices there, but I think Sandy can turn it around. We'll get into, talking Rangers and talking Halos, but again, anything from last night regarding the Rangers that impressed you? I saw some things that impressed me, but what about you?
It has to start with Dane Dunning. Like, just absolutely incredible outing for him.
What a great season
he's been the story of the Rangers pitching staff this year. He started the year, for Angels fans who don't know, he started the year as probably the Rangers' number 7 starter.
Right.
Number 7.
Right.
He was not even going to be on the big league roster, I don't think. But Jake Odorizzi was brought in. They signed 18 bajillion pitchers. It was basically just John Gray that was under contract coming into the year. They brought back Martin Perez, obviously signed Jacob deGrom, Nathan Eovaldi, Andrew Heaney. And they also traded for Jake Odorizzi. You may not know that because he did not throw a single pitch for the Rangers, even in a spring training game. He was done for the year before the year even started. So it was Dane Dunning, a long relief in the bullpen. Then a couple of times when Jacob deGrom got hurt and came out of games, Dane Dunning would come in. And then once deGrom was put on the IL, Dane Dunning stepped into the rotation and has been truly excellent this year. I mean, he's not a guy who's got a super sexy profile, but he's leading this team.
His name is Dane.
Dane. Like it's not the most exciting, but like it is good. It's effective.
The job done, man.
It will smother you. It will frustrate you. A bunch of weak contact. Like he did the job. 7 shutout innings. Like that's fantastic. And he's going to start a playoff game for the Rangers. It might not even be like game 4 of a playoff series. It might be like game 3 or honestly, maybe game 2.
Really?
Well, Jordan Montgomery is going to start game 1, but like Nathan Eovaldi hasn't been his full self since he came back off the IL. The velocity is not there. I mean, we saw what John Gray did on Monday. That was huge. Gray was in the middle of a rough stretch and he needed a good outing as badly as anybody in this Rangers rotation. And Dane Dunning finishes his year with 7 shutout innings, 3 hits, 1 walk, 7 Ks. Like just take a bow, Dane Dunning. The Rangers would be in a much worse spot if not for Dane Dunning this year, and I am so happy with what he's provided this team.
Altogether, 3 hits for the Halos, and on the Angels side, when you don't have hits from Zach Neto and Brandon Drury and Mike Moustakas at this point of the season, right? Usually it's like, oh, if you don't have hits from Ohtani and Trout, like then you're really having a hard time. But at this point of the season, it's Neto, Drury, Moustakas. I know Logan O'Hoppe got one. Jo Adell, we'll talk about him later on because I've been really happy with his progress. I mean, just nobody hit in this one for the Halos, and it really speaks to the Rangers pitching. Hey, coming up on this Locked On crossover between Locked On Angels and Locked On Rangers, we're going to talk about the hopefully, potentially, I think they can, playoff-bound Rangers and our hopeless Halos. So stick around for that, and we'll get to that conversation in just a minute. Hey, today's show is brought to you by the Game Time app. With the Game Time app, buying tickets is fast and easy. Game Time has deals on tickets right up until the day of the event. So if you need last-minute tickets, they got your back. You can get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and much more. Brice, I've been bragging about this one for a few weeks. Locked On Angels fans know this, but got to see Counting Crows and Dashboard Confessional together, and all of my 90s and 2000s and emo dreams came true that night. And I got the tickets on Game Time, super cheap, super easy, super convenient. And the best part about Game Time is that they have the Game Time guarantee, which means you'll get the best price and event cancellation protection. On the Game Time app, you can buy tickets in a matter of seconds. Just 2 taps and you're set. You can see images of your seats before you arrive and know what to expect when you get there. Your tickets are set directly to your phone, so you don't have to dig through your email. And if you find tickets in the same section or row for less, Game Time is going to credit you 110% of the difference. So grab the tickets without the stress with the Game Time app. Download Game Time, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. And again, create an account, use our code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Thanks for being here for this Locked On Angels and Locked On Rangers crossover. My name is John Frisch. I'm one half of Locked On Angels and the Super Halo Bros. Normally I'm here with my brother Mike. And for those of you who are tuned in to Locked On Rangers, hello, I'm John. And then there's Brice Paterik. Hello, Brice.
Hello.
Hey, just want to remind everybody that you can catch every pitch of the Angels hometown broadcast or the Rangers hometown broadcast on Sirius XM with the SXM. All you got to do is search Angels and Rangers. Now, speaking of the Rangers, Brice, I want to take this time to interview you for those who listen to Locked On Angels and those who listen to Locked On Rangers or watch Locked On Rangers. You guys can all brag together and you can represent your team well. And you know, let us know how it feels to be a playoff bound team. How's that sound?
Oh my gosh. I haven't even like let myself go there yet. Like the magic number is down to 2, which feels great and terrifying to say. The Astros just ended up pulling off a win. So the magic number to eliminate the Seattle Mariners is 1.
That's a shame. What a shame. What a shame.
I like I think it means that the Rangers have guaranteed themselves a spot in the playoffs, but I'm not entirely sure. The math is so complicated. There's so many scenarios. Like, I'm so stressed out at every single pitch. Like, I am freaking out like hours before. Like, I wake up and I'm anxious about Rangers baseball. That is not happening for like 13 hours, but like, my God, I miss this feeling. It's been so long since I've had a team that like made me feel these things. And the Rangers did actually get some good news about their playoff hopes and their hopes of going deep into the playoffs. Max Scherzer was diagnosed with a strained muscle behind his right shoulder. He was expected to be done for the season. It was 15 days ago, and he threw pitches off a mound. Yesterday.
That's incredible. And if he gets back to the postseason, man, like what a comeback that's going to be.
Like absolutely incredible. And this teres major injury, that's the muscle that was separated.
I thought that was a constellation. So now I know
it might be both, honestly. Like there was a lot of like double checking when that came out. But he left the game in Toronto where the Rangers were in the middle of a 4-game sweep of the Toronto Blue Jays. And he threw 6 innings of 1-run ball and came out and thought, oh no, please no. The Rangers, I mean, the Angels know about injuries. The Rangers have also suffered just an insane amount of injuries. The Rangers right now,
significant guys too.
The Rangers I'll put it this way. It is the best way to put it. The Rangers have 5 Cy Youngs on their IL right now.
Yeah.
5.
Crazy.
Nuts. But he could be back. There's no definitive timetable. He's not going to put a timetable on that. He said we'll know more tomorrow, Thursday, of how he recovers after that. But I mean, I just did this the other day, but thinking about the Rangers' healthy playoff rotation. If everybody in their rotation was healthy, game 1, Jacob deGrom. Game 2, Max Scherzer. Game 3, healthy Nate Eovaldi, who was maybe the Cy Young leader for the first half of the season. And then game 4 is Jordan Montgomery, who just had 7 shutout innings against the Mariners, literally the last time out. Like, there's not a rotation in baseball better than that. But unfortunately, that's not where the Rangers are.
Right.
They do still have a very good lineup, the best lineup in all of the American League because the Braves exist, unfortunately. Right. Still like this team, I had high expectations for the guys at 85 wins. They have blown past that already. They are at 88,
89 as of last
89 and 69 as of this recording. And I thought I was being really optimistic. Like I have been jaded. Like they did this just incredibly fast rebuild where they just didn't lose really except for 2 years. And they're lucky that everything fell off the rails in 2020 the way it did because it allowed them to slide into that rebuild real fast on a 30 games worth of being terrible, as opposed to starting it on a 162 game season.
That's a really good point. I don't know that many outside of Ranger fandom like would recognize that, but yeah, what a time to lose, right?
Yeah.
In a 60 game 2020 nothing season that everybody calls a Mickey Mouse World Series anyway. Like what a perfect time to lose.
Well, it's funny because the Rangers opened their new stadium in 2020.
I remember that.
That was they were all super hyped about it. They had
played the World Series there.
They just traded for Corey Kluber. They had a rotation of Corey Kluber, Mike Minor, who was good back then, and Lance Lynn, who was also good.
I remember the warning to the West. It's still a meme on Twitter, you know.
And like they were coming off a 2019 season where they were like really scrappy, and like an injury to Joey Gallo, an injury to Hunter Pence kind of derailed that season. Like they had, it's funny, in 2019, the Rangers had their 2 best Baseball Reference 4 seasons by pitchers ever. And it was Mike Minor and Lance Lynn. It was like, wait, what? How is that possible?
How did that happen?
Yeah, it did. More than any Yu Darvish year, more than any Cole Hamels year or Nolan Ryan or any other. Well, there's not exactly a whole buku of great Rangers pitchers. There are a lot of great pitchers on the Rangers IL at this point, but not a whole lot of history of great pitching. But this team is obviously flawed, but like it's so annoying that the Rangers haven't just wrapped up this division like a week ago because they were so good. They are so much better than the Astros and Mariners have been for most of the year, but they were just tripping on their feet. I mean, the Rangers had 6 All-Stars this year, and 5 of them have spent time on the IL. Josh Young missed 6 weeks. Corey Seager missed basically the equivalent of like 41 games. Adolis Garcia missed, thankfully, only like 10 games. It looked like he was going to be done for the year. And Jonah Heim missed a couple weeks as well. Like, it's just a lot of things went wrong all at the same time. And then in the middle of August, everyone's like, well, why isn't the lineup, scoring 10 runs again? Like, they've got 4 All-Stars on the IL, my dude.
It's not the same lineup. Well, and then you have the Mariners going 21-6. We talked about that yesterday on Locked On Angels. Like,
I didn't like that.
They just got hot, man. And now I think they're a young team that's kind of run out of some steam there. And can I just say, as an Angels fan, and I want to talk to your Rangers listeners and viewers, as an Angel fan, Locked On everydayers of Locked On Rangers, we are with you. And when it comes to the Mariners and the Astros, like we're with the Rangers. We've had some great rivalries, especially in the early 2010s. Like we've
great series,
some
honestly.
Great series, man. Just homer after homer from both sides. And so the fan base that annoys me the absolute least is the Texas Rangers. And not to say that there aren't other fan bases, that get under your skin, but the Astros, they've been obnoxious for years. At this point, I'm used to it. But man,
I'm not. I will never be used
you're in
to
Texas,
it.
so I get that. But like, at least over here, we can have some separation. And maybe it's a coast thing. But Mariners fans drive me absolutely insane. And it's, they got to the playoffs for the first time in 21 years last year. I get it. It's exciting. I feel like the ones who talk the most trash are the ones who weren't even born in 2001. So for me, as from this Angel fan, I'm rooting for the Rangers in the AL West, baby.
We'll take all the bandwagon fans we can get. Honestly, bring them on. It's Cowboys season. People forgot about the Rangers because they tailed off right when the Cowboys won their first. And I'm like, no, come back, please. This team's actually good. I promise. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Snap into the action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. We were just talking about the Cowboys, and if you are a Cowboys fan, whether you are in LA or you're in Dallas or wherever you are, or if you're a fan of literally any NFL team, right now is the best time. New customers get a $200 bet in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. And unfortunately for the Cowboys this last week, it was a lose. But if you were thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, odds, over-unders, and more. You can bet on the Rangers to win the World Series. I'm not exactly sure what FanDuel's odds are right there, but if you are feeling optimistic, you're thinking this is the time, the Rangers fixed their bullpen, the offense is back, Dane Dunning is going to carry us to a World Series, then go put your money where your math is. Go to FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
All right, Brice, can we take a moment to talk about my hopeless Halos? The floor is open to you, my friend, and I hope that I do the listeners of Locked On Angels justice in this segment, and hopefully I can represent the Angels well, even though they don't necessarily represent themselves well all the time, off the field especially. But, hit me with the questions. Hit me, like, whether it's what happened to this team, are you still a fan? Whatever it is, hit me with the questions.
So I want to start with the pitching, because I think both you and I think Mike also, at the beginning of the season, we thought the starting pitching is going to be a strength of this team. And we've seen Reid Detmers just go nuclear on the range. Like, why is he not like that? Like, what has gone wrong with the starting pitching staff? Like, I thought it was going to be, like, honestly, really, really good.
Yeah, I think currently they stand somewhere in the middle in terms of like pitching war for the starting staff of all 30 teams. What happened really was I think that we saw a lot of adjustments being made this season with like a Reid Detmers. The guy that you were scared of a few weeks ago is not the guy that he was at the beginning of the season. He added a couple ticks to his fastball, his slider. Then he started to realize, and I think coaching started to realize, that it wasn't as effective. The slider didn't have as much depth to it. The higher fastball velocity was not working for him. He couldn't locate, and it was leading to a lot of walks. And so he had to make some adjustments. And Angel fans and myself and Mike included have complained a lot about our pitching coach, Matt Wise. He was an interim who got his job after Mickey Callaway was fired, and so they had to move on from him at the beginning of 2021 because of his dumb decisions. And so Matt Wise has been our pitching coach. And to see where these guys were at the end of last season, and even Patrick Sandoval in the WBC, there were so many people going, who's that guy on Team Mexico? And we're over here going, it's Patrick Sandoval.
I remember watching Patrick Sandoval last year and think, this guy is fantastic. Like him and Detmers last year. I was like, oh my gosh. Meanwhile, I mean, even though they haven't had like the best seasons, like they're still like solid, serviceable starting pitchers. And the Rangers, like, they just haven't been able to get like literally any young, drafted, developed, homegrown starting pitching at all. And just seeing these two guys and Griffin Canning tonight, like looked really good.
Yeah.
And I'm like, the Rangers can't get, like, the Angels can get like 3 of these guys. You can't get one? Like just one, man.
Just
like
one, please.
Just one, be okay. Like, I'm just praying that Jack Leiter is like maybe a middle of the rotation pitcher. They picked him number 2 overall, and I'm praying for a middle of the rotation at best starter. Which I don't even know if he will be. Maybe he will be. I like the kid, and he's had a good like last month. But still, speaking of young kids and people who were drafted, it looked like Wyatt Langford might be the first one in this draft class to get up to the major leagues, but it is Nolan Shawnuel. Shawnuel, excuse me.
Yeah, we've had to figure that out over the last month or so. Shawnuel, Slimmy, Slammin, Simpson, Swanson,
Shawnuel.
Yeah, right. Samsonite. I was way off.
What have you seen from him so far?
Man, the biggest thing that was impressive is just his pitch recognition and then making contact in the zone. And was it Monday he fouled the ball off of his knee? Yes.
It was Monday because it was like the first at bat.
Yeah.
And then he hit that double. I was like, oh, he was faking it.
I know, right? Well, what's funny, and some people have identified this, he holds that bat. He's a lefty bat, and he holds it straight up and down, very much like Ohtani. Now, I'm sure the mechanics are different. The swing is different. But the funny thing is like the starting stance, his batting stance, is very Ohtani-like. And what else is Ohtani-like is we've seen Ohtani foul balls off of his knee and his shin and his foot and then hit a home run right after. So for Shawnuel to hit that double was great. The one thing that's missing from him is some slugging power. Now, he did hit a double the other night, and he does have a home run or two. But the one part of his game that's missing is probably that slugging power. The Angels have sluggers up and down the lineup, or at least potentially up and down the lineup if they're not all on the IL. But at the same time, it's nice to have a guy who just has such great contact. I believe it was like his zone swing or zone contact percentage, according to FanGraphs, is like 94, 95. Like he does not chase. And that is the most impressive thing about him. And then, of course, his on-base streak. Ever since he got called up, every game that he's been in, which is now 27, he's been on base 27 times in a row. He holds 4th place, sole custody of 4th place all time for rookies to start their year and be on base that many times. So he's at 27. I think the record is like 53. It's like Alvin Davis or something like that. So he won't be getting that, but it is a cool record in 2023.
He might.
If they count it crossing over into, next year and whatnot.
Yeah.
One guy too that I am very hopeful for, and probably somebody Ranger fans are familiar with, is Jo Adell. And their first instance of Jo Adell was 2020 when the ball bounced off of his glove. And
hey, did you see that happened to Julio Rodriguez?
I did. What a shame. What a shame.
Like, I don't know what it is about the Rangers. They just keep getting this, like, I don't know who's next. The A's need to do one. The Astros need to do one. Like, everyone get it on the party. All right.
Exactly. Jo Adell, Mike and I contended from the beginning, we need that guy to have a full season in the minor leagues because he mentally there's a roadblock there. Talent wise, I think it's there, but we got the impression that he was overthinking and just way too in his head about stuff. And if he just had a calm, confident season where he could rake in AAA and Salt Lake where the ball flies out of the yard, like, let that boy be confident. Let that guy get some of his mojo back and then come back and play for the Angels. And since he's been back, his defense has been better. His hitting is much better. He's not chasing a bunch of stuff like he used to. So I'm looking forward to seeing if he's going to factor into 2024 as part of that outfield, or even, bite my tongue, as a DH, because the Angels won't have Ohtani back next season.
Oof. Well, I know the Rangers would love to have Ohtani, keep him in the AL West and keep him doing damage against those Mariners you dislike so much and the Astros that I dislike so much, or just out of the AL. Like if it's not the Rangers, just like go out of the AL West.
The National League, please.
National League. Like maybe it'll be the Dodgers, and like it'll be kind of annoying and boring, but I can live with that. It won't
bother me in the slightest.
It won't bother me either. But I do want to ask you, this has been something I've been doing on my crossovers. If you could steal one player from the Texas Rangers, plop them right on the Angels, who would you steal?
It's funny. Since I've seen him on the Rangers, was it 2 years ago, I think, I've been a big fan of Adolis Garcia. Like there was something about him. Even technically he's been there since 2020, but everyday regular since 2021. Okay. Yeah. Cause like once I started seeing him in the lineup all the time, I'm just a fan of that guy. And to see he's at 38 home runs now, he's got a plus 800 OPS. He just like, I think he also, I was already a fan, but in the All-Star game, that first play out to right field, it was just like that endeared himself to me even more. So if I could plop that guy onto the Angels, I think that would be a lot of fun. Who from the Angels, and let's make it fun. You've had a few days to see some guys like that aren't Trout and Ohtani and Rendon. Who on the Angels would you like to see on the Rangers?
Well, like the obvious answer is like, even though he's hurt, just steal Shohei Ohtani so he can be here for 5 minutes,
right?
And then sign him. But man, I think I'm gonna go like off the wall and go Ben Joyce. Like, that guy really impressed me, and you can use as many relievers with primo gas like him as you can get in the playoffs. And I was really impressed by that kid, and I think that might be who I take if I don't take Reid Detmers, just to get that mojo
to not have to face him anymore. Exactly.
That might be I don't know. I think I'll go, if it's just for this year, Ben Joyce. For the long haul, Reid Detmers.
I love it. Well, hey, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you for having me on Locked On Rangers, and thank you for coming over to Locked On Angels, Brice.
Thanks for having me.
Good times. All right, friends. Just want to tell you guys that there we go. Just want to let you guys know that we appreciate you making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. The Angels are playing the A's at 6:38 Pacific time. You can catch every pitch of the Angels hometown broadcast on SiriusXM with the SXM app. All you got to do is search Angels. You can give us a follow at Locked On Angels on Twitter and at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram. And of course, get in our comments, get in our mentions, get in our listens, and subscribe on YouTube. Hit that thumbs up button. We'd love to hear from you. And the best way you can reach us is by getting in our comments on YouTube as well. It's a Fan Mail Friday tomorrow, so make sure you get your questions in. Of course, you can always reach us on our voicemail line, which is 714-409-6396. That number is in the episode description below. Until tomorrow's show, my name is John, and my brother Mike will be back here with us. And we appreciate you being here, and we'll see you back here for Fan Mail Friday.